Okay, welcome back. This is Mr. Hassan's Maths channel, and I am now answering question number 2 from the International A-Level Edexcel Statistics S1 paper. And this question here is all about correlation and regression. This question is telling us about the production cost in millions of pounds, okay, which is given by the symbol C. Okay, of a film, and the total ticket sales in millions of pounds T earned by the film are recorded for a sample of 40 films. So some of the summary statistics are given below. So the sum of C means the sum of the cost, the production cost of these 40 films is in millions 1,634 million, and in the sum of the ticket sales earned by all those 40 films is 1,361 million. Okay, and then this is the sum of all the t values squared, and this is the sum of the c value times the t values, and this is called SCC, which we'll talk about in a minute. So it says find the exact value of STT and the exact value of SCT. All right, so now these symbols SCC, STT, SCT, those are basically talking about the variance. Okay, means how it's a measure of how the values are spread out of the C values, and here this for the T values, and how the values of C and T are spread out in relation to each other. And there is a formula in the formula book to answer such questions, which is very simple for us to use. So if we go to the formula book and get those formulas, which I'm going to do now, you can see here we have the formula book. This is the part on the formula book for correlation and regression, and what we're interested in is this part over here. Okay, this part over here. Okay, SX, SY, SXY. Okay, so I'm going to take those, I'm going to copy them, and I'm going to use them over here. Okay, so let's just make that a bit smaller. So that's what we're going to use to answer this question. Right, we're going to use these formulae here. Now, what we want to find is STT. Okay, so we can think about STT is going to be the same as, for example, the part that we're interested in really here is this part here, because that's the information we have. So STT would be the sum of T squared, be the sum of all of T squared, minus the sum of T, the sum of all the T values, and then squared over the number of entries. Now we know N is equal to 40 because there's 40 films. So we can say STT is going to be the sum of T squared, which is this value over here. So it's 82,873 minus the sum of T then squared, which is this one here, 1361 squared, and then divided by the number, which is 40. And that will give us our value. That will give us our value. So we take the calculator and we simply put these inside the calculator, being very careful not to make a silly mistake in typing in the numbers. It's very easy to do that in this topic. So that's minus, and then on the numerator I'll have 1361, and I square that divided by 40. Okay, so that gives us 36,564.975. It says the exact value, so we don't round it to 3SF. We write it exactly as it is here, 36,564. So 36,564.975. Let me just double check that I've written it down correctly, because it's very easy to make a mistake here. Okay, that's right. Okay, and then we want to find SCT. We want to find SCT. So SCT, so that's STT, so I'll write this down here. STT is 36,564.975. Now SCT, we will use this formula over here, SXY, okay, because those are where they're both different letters. So I'm going to use this formula over here. So if I make it in relation to C and T instead of X and Y, it's going to be the sum of CT. Okay, the sum of CT, which is that, minus the sum of C times the sum of T over N. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be the sum of CT, which we have here, which is 83,634, minus the sum of C, which is 1,634, times the sum of T, which is 1,361, and that's divided by 40, and that should give us our answer. So we just put that in the calculator. So we have 83,634 minus my fraction. I'll have 1,634 times 1,361. So 6, yes, that's right, over 40. N is 40. And that gives us 28,037.15. 28,037.15. Let me just make sure. 28,037.15. Yeah. Okay. So we can say SCT is 28,037.15. So we found the value of STT and SCT as we've been asked to do. Okay. So there's part A. Pretty simple. Then it says part B, calculate the value of the product moment correlation coefficient for these data. So again, the value of the PMCC can be found from the formula sheet. If we go back to the formula sheet, it tells us the PMCC, the product moment correlation coefficient is given by, well, they've got all these formulas here, but the one that we're interested in is this first one here, because it's just telling you how to find SXY and SX, and we've already done that, right? So what we're interested in is this formula. So I'm going to take this formula and I'm going to use it in our page. Okay, so here's the formula that we just took from there. So we have R equals SXY over SXXSYY. So in terms of our numbers, this is SCT over SCC times STT. And we have all of those things. We found CT already in this first part of the question. And that's a square root, by the way. Sorry, that's a square root for the denominator. So the numerator is going to be SCT, 28,037.15 divided by the square root of, and then we're going to have SCC, which we're already told in the question. That's 28,732.1. That's 28,732.1 multiplied by STT, which we found as 36,564.95. So all of that together will give us the value of R. So I'm going to just stick that in my calculator. So I'm going to have fraction, my last answer, which was SCT, over the square root of, I'll have 28,732.1. Just make sure that's correct. Yes. Times 36,564.95. Okay, so make sure that I'm doing that correctly. And that gives me 0.86500, 0.86503, ... which is to 3SF 0.865. It doesn't tell us how to round it, so we should normally give us answers to 3SF unless otherwise stated. So that's the value of the PMCC, which has got the symbol R. Okay, so there's the answer to part B. Then part C says, give an interpretation of your answer to B. All right, so now this is where many students lose the mark here. It's worth 1 mark, but where do students lose this mark? Well, they just say strong positive correlation. Okay, this is strong positive correlation, yes. Okay, but when it says a interpretation, you can't just write strong positive correlation. It means you have to give it in the context. You have to give the context in terms of what this is talking about. This is talking about the relationship between the production costs and the ticket sales. Okay, so if there's strong positive correlation between the production cost of a film and the ticket sales, that means you can say films with higher production costs, tend to have higher ticket sales. Okay, higher ticket sales. Something like this. It has to be in the context of the question in layman's terms. right? So not in statistics language, okay, in layman's terms. So you should mention it in terms of, everyday language, and you should mention the fact that it's relating to the cost of producing a film and the ticket sales. So if you write strong positive correlation, you won't get any marks for this, even though this is strong positive correlation, because they're asking you to interpret your answer, okay, not just state what this means, okay, just doesn't state that the correlation is positive and strong. No, okay, and it's strong positive correlation because the closer that the value of R is to 1, the stronger the correlation, the positive correlation. The closer it is to -1, the stronger the negative correlation. And the closer it is to 0, the closer it is to having no correlation. So this is quite strong positive correlation because it's more than 0.8, it's close to 1. All right. So, but we can't just write that down. We have to mention that the interpretation of this is that films with higher production costs will have higher ticket sales. All right, so that's very important that we mention that in our answer. Okay, so there's the answers to A, B, and C. Now for the next page, we're going to do answers to part D. So it says, show that the equation of the linear regression line of T on C can be written in this form. Now, so we have to be very careful to show our steps very clearly in a question where they tell you to show something, right? If you just show minimal steps and don't show the steps correctly, and just assume things, or just write down answers from your calculator without showing your steps properly, then you won't get the full marks for this, especially because they already told us the regression line, right? It didn't just say find the regression line of T on C. It's saying show that it's equal to this. All right, so you have to be very careful to show your steps carefully for this. So the first thing we need to do is we can look at the formula book again to find the formulae that we need to find the regression line of something on something. Okay, so we'll go to the formula book, and I already have it ready over here. So we have this part of the formula book where it says the regression line or the regression coefficient of y on x. So first, the least squares regression line of y on x is y equals a plus bx. So the regression line of y on x. Now we want to find the regression line of t on c. So the y is our t and the x is our c. So t is y and c is x. We're finding the regression line of t on c. That's what we're finding. Okay, so our regression line is going to be t equals a plus b c. All right, so that's what we're going to have. So t equals a plus b times c. That's our regression. This is y is t and x is c. Now a and b are b is like the gradient of the line and a is like the y-intercept. Now b, as we're told, is equal to sxy over sxx. All right, now in terms of hours, it's going to be, we can say in terms of our numbers that we have, b is going to be equal to sct over, and our x is c, scc, right? sct over scc. So sct we found in our first part of the question, 28,037.15, and scc is given to us in the data. So I've taken this data from the first part of the question so we can see it here. So you have 28,732.1. Okay, so we can work out what the value of b is, right? That's part of our equation of our line. Okay, it's going to be, that'll be the b part. Okay, so we're finding what b is. So that's going to give us, if we put that in a calculator, we'll have 28,037.15 divided by 28,732.1. Okay, just make sure we've got everything written down properly. That's correct. That gives us 0.97581. 0.97581. So we can see that b to 3SF, we've got the right answer because that rounds to 0.976. So we got the right answer for B. Okay, that's good. And now we've got to find what A is. Now we can see from here that it tells us that the regression coefficient of y in A is B equals SYX. And it also says the regression line of y in X is given by this, where it says A equals the mean of y minus B times the mean of X. So in our context, our y, remember, okay, is T. So it's the mean of T minus B times the mean of C. All right, so the mean of T is the sum of the T values divided by the number of entries, which we said was there was 40 films. So it's going to be 1361 over 40 minus B times. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my exact fraction that I used to find B, which is 28,037.15 over 28,732.1, and use that as my B value times the mean of C. Now the mean of C is 1,634 divided by 40, right? So it's good, always good to use exact values. So I'm going to use the same fraction, which is in my calculator right now. This is in my calculator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to take 1361 divided by 40, and then I'll take away, okay, my answer that I have last in my calculator. So put answer, that is the last thing in my calculator, the value of B in its exact form, times, and then I'll have this other fraction, which is the mean of C, 1634, sorry, divided by 40, and this should give me the value of A. And if you've done it correctly, it should be minus 5.84, and that's right. It's exactly the right number there for A. So we can see here from this that A equals minus 5.8369 minus 5.8369. So that's going to be to 3SF minus 5.84 3SF. So therefore we can say that our equation is T equals A, which is negative 5.84, plus B, which is 0.9976 times C. And that's exactly what we had to show. All right, so it's important that you do show your steps and that you keep things to a higher degree of accuracy until the last step. And that must be shown in such questions. All right, so it's very important for us to understand that. So there's part D done, okay, which is 3 marks. And now it says, find the expected total ticket sales for a film with a production cost of 90 million. Okay, so we know that our formula that T equals minus 5.84 plus 0.976 times C. What we can here, we say the cost is equal to 90 million. Now C is in terms of millions. So you can say that T is equal to minus 5.84 plus 0.976 times 90. And that will give me my answer. So I have minus 5.84 plus 0.976 times 90, which gives us 82. Okay, so therefore the cost, this is the value of T, all right? So therefore the sales, the expected ticket sales is 82 million. Okay, therefore the ticket sales expected is equal to 82 million pounds. Okay, so don't just put T equals 82. They want the total expected ticket sales, so you have to mention that it's 82 million pounds because the T is in millions, right? So don't just put 82, put 82 million pounds. Very important. Okay, then it says, using the regression line in part D, which is what we found here, which they already told us, find the range of values of the production of a cost of a film for which the total ticket sales are less than 80% of the production cost. So the ticket sales are less than 80%, which is 0.8 times C. So T must be less than 0.8 C. So what we can do is we can say, all right, let's take the equation for T, which is minus 5.84 minus 5.84 plus 0.976c, and say that we got to find when this is the values of c when this is less than 0.8c. So if we solve this inequality, I think we've solved the answer. All right. So we can say that let's subtract 0.8 from both sides. So 0.976c minus 0.8c is less than 5.84. So let's do that first. So 0.976 minus 0.8 equals 0.176. So 0.176c is less than 5.84. Therefore, c is less than 5.84 over 0.176. So c is less than. So you have 5.84 divided by our answer, which gives us 33.1818. 33.1818. So c is less than that. So we want to find the range of values, so we can say the cost is less than 33.2 million pounds. So the range of costs is less than 33.2 million pounds. So there's our answer for part F. Okay, and that concludes question number 2 from this S1 paper. All right, so yeah, a few things to take into account, as I mentioned: writing things in context, writing our answers in terms of what they are, because remember T is measured in millions, so you don't write 82, you write 82 million. Similar, C is measured in millions, so you write 33.2 million. You will definitely lose marks if you don't do that. Okay, so there's the answer to question 2 from October 2022 S1. Other questions from this paper can be found in the playlist that will appear in this region over here. Other questions from this topic of regression and correlation can be found in the playlist that will appear over here. You can subscribe to my channel by clicking on the link in the middle. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.